I'm J. Lenora Bressler, and welcome to the July 21st, 2018 edition of the Bible Delight in the Details. I'm going to bring you one aspect of something that I taught to my adult Sunday school class this morning. We were in 2 Samuel chapter 15, in the life of David. You know, when most people think about David, they think about David and Goliath. They think about maybe David and Bathsheba, his great sin that was adultery and murder, and then his coming to repentance. But there's a whole nother aspect of the David story that kind of reminds you of the old cliffhanger TV shows like Dallas and Dynasty and Falcon Crest, those things that we watched in the 1980s. In 2 Samuel chapter 15, we see the story of David on the run, probably about age 60 or so. So he's at a precarious part of his life. His strength is starting probably to fail. He knows that he has more life behind him than in front of him. And what does he find? He finds that he is on the run, being forced out of his capital, Jerusalem, by his son, Absalom. Now, there's a lot we can say about Absalom, and we will in other programs. But today, I want to talk about something that does speak well for David in this episode brought a lot of this on himself. I'm not excusing Absalom's rebellion. That was horrible. And Absalom clearly did not care about either his father or the Lord. But a lot of this was brought on by David's shirking of responsibility, his weakness as a father, and his just apparently not engaging well, not being a good administrator or a good king at a certain part in his life. Despite the fact that this is after he had repented of his great sin with Bathsheba and the murder of Uriah. But he's on the run, and he's leaving Jerusalem, he and his household. And the first thing that I want to talk about today is that he apparently still had the loyalty of the high priest and Abiathar and Zadok, who was appears to be kind of the second in command, maybe the priest that was in charge of some of the logistics under the high priest. And both of them had brought the Ark of the Covenant, the tangible physical symbol of God's presence, out with David, with the multitude coming out of the palace on the run. And David told them to take the ark back into Jerusalem. And he specifically said in 2 Samuel chapter 15 that if the Lord found favor, if he found favor with the Lord would bring him back so that he could worship again in Jerusalem. And if not, if he did not find favor in the sight of God, then David said, then here I am, let God do with me as he pleases. You see, the mistake that other people were making is that God needed to go with the king. And David, for all of his sins, and they were many, he understood that no, the king must go with God. And he realized that what was more important was not that God be protecting of him himself, but that he be enthroned in his capital, where he had set his standard, where David knew better than anybody else that God said, I want to be worshipped in Jerusalem. And David knew that rather than any kind of talisman or superstition about having the Ark of the Covenant with him, even if people would have reacted differently and there would have been some protection for him because of that, he knew that his life was not as important as God being seen as being still in power. You know, a lot of times we as Christians, we say to one another when something bad happens, don't we comfort each other and say, even so, God is still on the throne. In 2 Samuel chapter 15, this was David on the run, living the consequences of his sin and also his poor kingship to some extent, his poor family relationships. He's experiencing those, and yet he says, God is still on the throne. Him sending the ark back, even knowing that he might not be returning himself, was a great sign of maturity, and really shows David, the David that we had come to know and love from other times in his life, was finally coming to his senses and coming back. There's some more in this beautiful and interesting chapter for us to talk about, but we'll do that next time on The Bible, Delight in the Details. Remember, always keep God first and foremost in your perspective. It is the most important thing is to remember and to acknowledge that no matter what happens to any individual, our God remains on the throne. I'm J. Lenore Bressler. Visit me on the next edition of The Bible, Delight in the Details. Have a great day.